This is Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. Mitch Lafon.
Welcome to another edition of Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. Joining me on the phone, it is the one, the only Aaron Lewis of the band Stained. He has a new country album out called State I'm In. And I'm going to tell you the state I'm in because Aaron and I had a long conversation about this. As you know, there have been some video clips and reports about him sort of cursing out fans and saying, hey, listen, be quiet, or something a little more spicy than that. But be quiet, you're at a show, you're here to listen to songs. And I have to say, and the way it was contextualized was to somehow suggest that he was crazy or something. And I disapprove of that, and I'll tell you why. I go to a lot of shows, and people come up to me all the time, friends, family, fans, whatever, and they'll say, hey, how's it going? And that's absolutely wonderful. I encourage you, please come and say hello. Let's take a picture, whatever you want. More than happy. But what irritates me, and what happens sometimes, is you're at a show, and there'll be like a quiet song or a ballad or even a fast song, and you've got a group of people, 3, 4, 5, just talking, and they're not talking about the concert. They're talking about what happened at the office, or who's a bitch, or who's an ass, or who, and it's just like, really? Can you take that conversation outside? I mean, I go to a lot of shows, and I've had these people in front of me and in back of me having these conversations, and you're like, well, didn't you pay $150 to hear songs? So why are you not listening to the songs? And if you got freebies and you don't like the band, then why are you here? And I got to say, I have a friend that I used to take to shows, and I underline used to take to shows. I would invite him, and he would come, and he would spend his entire show, he would spend the entire show in my ear going, did you see this? Did you see that? Oh, they don't play it like they used to. And it was just nonstop. It was a drone. And I said, listen, dude, you got to stop. And I would, at some point I would just put up my hand and say, look, stop. And so I just said, you know what, I'm not going to invite him to shows anymore. Still a great friend, but just not a concert buddy. And that happens to me. I was at Avantasia the other day in Montreal, and they're doing this song called Dying for an Angel, which was done on an album with Klaus Meine of the Scorpions. It is absolutely my favorite song by that band, mostly because I'm a Scorpions fan. And they start playing it, and I'm listening to it, and I'm in it. And then this guy gets in my ear, goes, man, this song is so great, and this is and I'm like, yes, let me hear it, And I get that at Kiss shows. I was at 2 Kiss shows earlier this year in Montreal and Ottawa, and fans were coming up, and they were talking to me about all kinds of stuff, positive stuff, and talking SHIT. Oh, it's not like old Kiss, it's not like Ace, and it's not, and this band's perfect, and I'm loving it. And I'm like, yeah, it's great, that's great, but can I watch it? I would love to watch it. So please, just let me watch it. Let me hear it. In fact, let me restate that. I don't want to watch it. I want to hear it. Please let me hear it. Anyway, I know this sounds like a rant, and I'm not one to rant, but talk to me, folks. Hit me up on my Twitter, at Mitch Lafon, MITCHLAFON, at Mitch Lafon, or on my Facebook, or any one of my socials, and say, listen, dude, that rant about just before the Aaron Lewis thing, you're either completely nuts and off base, and if I go to a show and I pay the money, I'm allowed to talk, and because, freedom of speech. Or, no, sorry, I'm not putting down freedom of speech. I'm just saying when somebody gives me that excuse at a show, it's like, oh, come on, that's not the purpose. But talk to me about, am I right? Do you not want to just go to a show and go to a show? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I know the prices of tickets are out of this world, and people are complaining about it. It's $150 or it's $200 and all that. And then you get there and you got somebody in your ear moaning about what happened at the office, or moaning that this guitarist is not as good as the other guitarist, or moaning that they didn't play this song, or they're playing it wrong. And it's just like, come on, stop. Just enjoy the show. Anyway, speaking of enjoying stuff, this month, the month of May 2019, the mighty Whitesnake put out a new album called Flesh and Blood. And I got to tell you, and I don't do reviews. I think reviews are completely useless. It's opinion couched in pomposity. But this album, Flesh and Blood, when Judas Priest last year released Firepower, everybody got on board and said, oh my God, it's the most vital Judas Priest album of the last 20 years. Oh my God, they haven't lost anything. Oh my God, it is, top 5 Judas Priest albums of all time. And I'll throw this in, by the way. Claudio Bergman, who did the art for Firepower, is also the same guy that did the art for Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. And, this is a shameless plug. This is as shameless as it gets. Trust me, I'm in shameless territory. But Firepower, artwork by Claudio. Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon, artwork by Claudio. And available now at loudtracks.com/Mitch. Isn't that easy? So loudtracks.com/Mitch. So if you want to look your sexiest, there's 2 models of shirts out there. There's the baseball jersey with the white sleeves, or raglans, I believe they're called, and also the classic black that has the Claudio artwork on it there for Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. They are available now and shipping now, so head over to loudtracks.com/Mitch. Now, shameless plug aside, let me just get back to Whitesnake and how I was getting there from Judas Priest. I believe that Whitesnake has made their firepower in the sense that fans should be saying that this is essential listening. Fans should be saying that this is the best they've heard the band in 20 years. And of course, I say that with no disparaging comments against what Whitesnake has done recently. But this album, Flesh and Blood, captures the band at an absolute apex. What Reb Beach and Joel Hoekstra and David and everybody else has done is commit to vinyl or to CD or the atmosphere this wonderful, wonderful album. And the songs are great. I mean, my personal favorite is Trouble Is Your Middle Name. So if you're listening to this, again, head back over to the wonderful internet, the Twitter or my Facebook, and say, hey, I heard the show and I agree with you or I disagree with you about Flesh and Blood. And my favorite track is, or simply, I don't have a favorite track because I don't like it, but that's not true. If you're a Whitesnake fan, you're a hard rock fan, you're going to love this album. It is absolutely, absolutely delightful, right? Is that the word? Do we use the word delightful in rock reviews? Not sure. Anyway, so do pick that up and support the band, support Whitesnake, support Firepower, or Judas Priest, I should say. And I will say this, after reading an article in the New York Times about CDs, buy the CD, play it on CD, and I'll tell you why. Or, in fact, I will steal the idea from the New York Times and tell you why. The argument in the article in the New York Times was the great thing about CDs over streaming is the sound quality is better. There's no commercials. Because sometimes if you have like a free Spotify or free whatever, they run commercials before and after songs. And more importantly, or most importantly, no algorithms. When I play whatever CDs I want at home, whether it's Metallica or Kiss or Duran Duran or Whitesnake or Judas Priest, the only person knows that I played that is me. And that's the way it should be. But when you hit streaming and those different streaming sites and you play these songs, well, they start gathering that information and they start compiling playlists and suggesting albums. And at some point, there's a profile created. And that profile, as they do with algorithms, eventually leads to them pushing stuff onto you. Here's a new album you should listen to. Here's a new album you should play. And what I find most disturbing in algorithms is sometimes that connectivity that different apps have. I know that whenever I go searching for something on Amazon, the next sponsored ad I see on Instagram is for that thing. And it is couched within. So I'll give you an example. The other day I was looking up dog treats for my dog. So, snacky chicken tenders or whatever. And then I went to my Instagram, and suddenly, scrolling through the whatever you call it, the page or there was a lot of dog pictures, and I was like, okay. And then embedded or somewhere within those dog pictures, there was like, hey, get this at Amazon. And I was like, wow. And it was instantaneous. I mean, I essentially closed the Amazon app, opened up Instagram, and there it was. So that's why stick to CDs. There's no algorithms. Nobody's spying on you. Um, And anyway, that said, I'm about to buy a new car in the next couple of weeks, and I'm actually questioning, do I get it with the CD player or not? Because actually, in the car, I do like just having everything on the phone and just Bluetooth it over or whatever. Anyway, enough rambling. 10 minutes of rambling. Let us get over to the one, the only, the mighty Aaron Lewis. We are speaking with a singer-songwriter, Aaron Lewis. The new album is State I'm In, came out in April, and of course at the end, or in the fall I should say, you've got a few shows or a couple of shows with Stained. So Aaron, an absolute pleasure to have you today.
Pleasure's all mine. How are you, sir?
Good. I'm doing very well, actually. So very excited to talk to you about this. Let me get into the album State I'm In. Just came out in April. Talk to me about putting out these country records or putting out country records. When I first got to know you back in the 90s, it was new metal or hard rock, whatever label you want to put on it. Talk to me about transitioning and getting into country and changing over that sort of style and essentially changing your brand.
Well, I finished my record contract. I made it all the way through to the end of my contract and decided that I didn't want to do something moving forward on my own that was kind of stained light, if you will. And the one thing that I could have done musically that wasn't necessarily reinventing myself was go back to the music that I was force-fed as a kid. I mean, there was all of my memories of childhood had country music as a soundtrack, and so that was really what led to the transition of going to country music rather than doing anything else, any other genre, or staying in the genre that I was in and just doing a light version of what I had already been doing.
When you mentioned the contract with Up, so when the contract expires and you're sort of a free agent.
Oh, that it didn't expire.
Okay.
I outlived it.
Right.
I honored my contract. I turned in all the records that we were supposed to turn in and survived our contract. And we were then free agents, yes.
Okay, but so I want to take you up on the word survive, though. Was there a point where there was a sort of a disgust with what was going on, or was it just, okay, we've done it, we fulfilled we've done what we have to do, and it's just time for chapter 2? I mean, so the question being, was it just great to sort of get away, or was it, oh my God, I can't believe this is over, thank God,
By the time we got to the end of our contract, I needed a break. I needed a break from those songs and kind of reliving it every time I sang them, and so it was a healthy, needed break from what I had been doing all that time.
Yeah, and it turned out great.
I wrote all those songs. Somebody has to live through something in order for it to turn into a song. And, I wrote all those songs and I had to live through it and to somewhat relive it every night over and over and over and over and over again. I needed a break.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. I do want to ask you about, because there's something that these incidences on the stage, which I support you in, by the way, because when I go to a show and there's somebody right behind me talking all night, it drives me crazy. And I'm like, dude, I just paid $150 to hear the song. I don't want to hear about what you did at the office this afternoon. Um, Talk to me a little bit about that in
Well,
terms
I'm
of.
standing up. I'm in those situations. I'm standing up for you. You
Yes,
know,
I agree.
it's
And thank you.
anytime those things get reported on, they are so pulled out of context. There's no perspective of what the evening was, or when in the evening these things happened, or anything like that. It's just reported on to make me look as bad as it could possibly make me look, because that's what the media has turned into these days.
Right. But I have to say, I don't think it made you look bad because I agree with you. As a reporter, go to a lot of shows and people are always saying, hey, Mitch, blah, blah. And, I just want to hear rock and roll all night. That's why I came tonight. I don't want to hear about whatever. And so how do we change that media perception, or has the media gone just sort of so far out where everything has to be drama that we can't actually appreciate the art for what it is?
Everything's clickbait now. Everything is as like twisted up and just the most negative things, the most controversial things, the way that they state it in the header of the article. It's all to get you to click on it.
I agree,
and truth is out the window, because I read the reportings on those evenings in question where I wound up, it being brought to everyone's attention what had happened, and there was such little pieces of truth in there, and then the whole rest of it was just a complete twist. It's laughable.
Well, it really is. And I also don't like the perspective and the way it paints you in the sense that this is like something that happens all the time. I mean, you've been around since the 90s. You've had a couple of shows where you've done that, and rightly so. And so it's anyway, I applaud you for that. I really think you did a good thing. And I'll tell you on this show, just so you have no worries. I do what All in the Family was like back in the day, live to tape. Whatever we're saying here is what fans are going to hear, word for word. There's no cutting, there's no editing. If we do 20 minutes, they hear 20 minutes. If we do 30 minutes, they'll hear 30 minutes, and it's going to be what you say, which is, I think, the way it should be, quite frankly. Let me get back to.
Well, there's something to be said for honest reporting.
Well, I try to.
That's freedom of press is based on honest reporting. That's all.
I agree, and anyway, I don't want to get into a whole political thing, but I do think that
we're good.
No, but I do think we've lost perspective. I remember growing up, much like you might, listening to Dan Rather and Walter Cronkite and all those people, and you're thinking, okay, I can trust these people. And when I watch the news now, and I'm in Montreal, I'm a Canadian, I watch the American news, and I listen to it, and I go, that's a Democrat reporting, and that's a Republican, and I shouldn't do that. When I'm watching the news, you shouldn't be able to do that. Anyway,
no, it should be the honest facts, and the opinion needs to stay out of it unless it's clearly stated that it's opinion.
Yeah, and we've lost.
That's the problem. Is the line has been blurred between opinion and actual factual reporting, and what we tend to get most of is opinion, which makes it so that someone else has put their opinion on it already, instead of you being the person that puts your opinion on the honest news that's been reported.
I agree, and I would say it's not even been blurred. I think they've erased it. But let me quickly get back to the music, because that's what we're here for. You got a chance to work with Buddy Cannon. Of course, he has done a lot of stuff with Kenny Chesney and a whole bunch of others. What does he bring to the table? Because, I look especially at some and I don't want to call you a heritage act, but I see some bands that have had a long career and they start self-producing. And I always go, oh, my God, what are you doing? You need those outside ears. First of all, do you think, is that a proper perspective? Do you need outside ears when you're making an album? And then talk to me about Buddy and what he brings to the mix.
Well, for me, I've always tended to battle with the outside ear because I'm a creative and I hear things the way I hear it, and I want it to come out the way I hear it. But at the same time, I guess it's sort of a necessity in order to push yourself at times to maybe better what you've come up with, or have someone suggest a change that might not, it's a necessary evil, I guess. With Buddy, we almost share a brain. So it just works. Like, if he doesn't say it, I said it. And Buddy for me is like, he's the translator too. I don't know Nashville numbers. I don't know any of that stuff that is how you have to communicate with the session guys that come in to record. So, a producer definitely has his place and has a purpose. I've just always battled with producers that tried to take over the process of writing. There's been a couple that I've definitely gone toe to toe with throughout the entire recording process.
Is that a question of just you're in charge, it's your album and you want to make it be your thing? Or is it a trust issue where you go, I'm not sure this guy's getting me? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, do you sort of?
I mean, I guess it's all sorts of different facets, but I write my own songs. I'm not taking songs from a catalog and then having a producer help me put them all together. It's a personal thing. It's my song. Don't tell me that the words aren't right. I write the words. If you want to start writing songs, then go write songs. If you had that ability to do that, you probably wouldn't be a producer. You would probably be an artist that writes songs. Right. I don't know.
Right.
It's a personal thing for me. It's like, don't fuck with my craft.
Yeah, nor should you. And by the way, swearing is permitted, so we're good. Let me ask you then about the mechanics of it all on two fronts. First of all, when you're writing songs for Tormented or Break the Cycle, then you get to State I'm In, is the songwriting process the same and then it's just the instrumentation later that's different? Or do you really have a way to write for Stained and another way to write for Aaron Lewis, solo artist?
That's a good question. It's something that I definitely appreciate about having this second outlet being my solo stuff. It does allow me to write differently. It allows me to tell different stories. It allows me to as a perfect example, on my first country record, there's a song called Endless Summer about taking my daughters to the beach for the weekend. I really don't think I could have applied that song to a Stained record. It just, though lyrically, it wouldn't, I don't know that it would have worked. So it does give me a different way of telling stories. The songwriting process is still the same, where I've sat down on an acoustic guitar and come up with a skeleton of a song, and then present the skeleton of the song to the other musicians that are in the studio with me. And that's the way it was on the songs that I wrote on an acoustic guitar back with Stained as well, where the song was a song before I brought it to the band, and then they do all the stuff on the song that I'm not capable of doing. I'm not that technically good of a guitar player or a musician. I have an ear, and I just have a musical sense. I don't necessarily have the skills to back it up.
Well, I was just going to say, based just on record sales.
I'm pretty rudimentary. I'm pretty rudimentary when it comes to my guitar playing and whatnot. I'm not going to blow anybody's mind with my technical skills at any point ever.
But sometimes it's about being efficacious and not over the top. But let me ask you then this on the other side. So lyrically, like you said, Endless Summer and stuff wouldn't go for Staind. What about vocally? Do you approach it in the same way and just sort of, vocally, is one more challenging than the other, or do you still sort of hear the same sort of vocal pattern in your head and then just deliver it for the you know what I'm saying? Is it a challenge?
It's always challenging to take yourself out of a vocal pattern. It always is. That's why there's so many bands out there that they get to a point where there's 7 or 8 songs that you can hear throughout 4 or 5 different records. And I lost my train of thought.
No worries. We'll keep moving. I've had a chance.
Yeah, well, that won't get edited out either, which is awesome.
No, I'm going to leave it in, and I'll send.
I know you are.
I'm going to leave everything in. So, last time I spoke to Mike, he was promoting Saint Ansonia, and obviously the question comes up: is Staind going to happen and stuff? And then I've seen interviews with you and the other guys, and they're like, no, Staind hasn't broken up. We're still here. And yet, since 2011, there's been no new music, and shows have been sparse, if any. And now we've got these shows coming up in September and October, Louder Than Life Festival and Aftershock Festival. Talk to me a little bit about that. Are those just sort of testing the waters, and we'll see if this leads to something in 2020? Or is this like more, man, the money was so great, we'd be real stupid to not say yes? Is this the beginning of chapter 2, or is just this enjoy what we get? And, where are we going with the band?
I think that both of the avenues that you just said are true and possible. This is definitely let's just get together and play a few shows and see what happens. And 2020 is 2020, and we'll see. I've made no commitments to anything. I just want to kind of see how this couple shows goes.
Now, the band, has, like I mentioned, has never said we've broken up. Is that sort of
we
how
never did?
Is that it? I mean, is that how everybody felt? It's never been this sort of animus where we just say, "Hey, dude, Mike, I hate you. I don't want to see your face again." I mean, it's never been that. It
was never like that.
So it was just about discovering other avenues. I mean, Saint does great stuff. Your solo stuff is great. So was it just that sort of growing creatively?
Well, I needed that. I needed the break that I talked about earlier.
Right.
I definitely needed that break, and that break turned into these avenues, and the break went long enough to where I wouldn't mind getting out there on stage with Staind and playing some songs that we all wrote together a long time ago.
Now you did mention when you were talking about the break that you had to get away from singing the same old songs again because they brought up whatever emotions or feelings. Is that something now that I don't want to say you can handle, but Is there a fear that you'll get back into that pattern, or it's like, you know what, I've grown over the last 8 years. I'm fine. Leave me alone. I'll go do these songs. Everybody will have a good time. Just enjoy it.
You know, I think that it was, 13, 14 years of being away from home for 10 months out of the year. And singing those songs. And, it was just a culmination of everything. I needed a break, and I'm ready to play some shows again. I don't know.
Yeah, and the fans are still there, and they're still we're all waiting to hear from you again in both the solo version and the Stained. In terms of musical outlooks and musical projects, are these two entities good enough for you, or do you want to explore other stuff? Do you want to do a classical album, or write a Broadway show, or do a more prog
None
record?
of those things.
No.
None of those things, but I've certainly started messing around with other avenues, and I've always wanted to do some sort of programmed, kind of hip hop but ambient. I guess this new girl Billie Eilish is kind of. It's what she's doing is kind of something that I've always toyed around with the idea of, and I have been toying around with it, and I've got a friend that he's actually my landlord in Nashville, and he's a programmer, and we've been messing around with some stuff, and you never know.
You would make my daughter happy. I can tell you that much, because she's always Billy. Can you get me to meet her? Can you? And I'm like, hey.
Oh, she's a very, very talented young lady.
Oh,
like
she is.
The songs that she writes. She's very, very talented, and it's just her and her brother, from what I understand.
She's great, and there's another one from the scene, and we're deviating for a second, but there's a girl named Dua Lipa. I saw her show last year. There was 75,000 people, and it was mesmerizing. And listen, I'm a rock guy. I'm Kiss, Aerosmith, but this Dua, she was mesmerizing, absolutely terrific. And I see we're getting to the 25-minute mark, so I'll start wrapping up. But just real quick, assuming that the shows go well, and assuming that the band decides to write together again and have an album come out in 2020, do you look back at the history of the band and say, okay, we've got to write something like this, have our sound, like sort of like AC/DC has their sound? Or do you say, listen, it's 2020, it's been 8 years or 9 years at that, we create something new, we move the ball forward, we're not going to go back to 1996? How would you see a new Stained record? Is it living in the past or moving it forward?
I think that if we were to go into the studio and do anything, it would be pretty brutal. It would be continuing back to how heavy we were to begin with, when it's been a while, and Outside and So Far Away and songs like that were radio songs confused everything. Because if you came and saw us at a show, the show was a hell of a lot heavier than most of the songs that you would hear on the radio. And I would have to say that it would be going back in the direction of just heavy.
It sounds like you're actually you're looking forward to doing a heavy album, aren't you? You've got that desire.
Probably. I think I've got some pent up stuff.
Yeah.
that would probably flow out quite nicely over some of Mike's heavy riffs.
All right, I'll finish with this then. Have you demoed anything? Not for Stain necessarily, but have you written any heavy songs in the last 5-6 years that are sitting in a vault somewhere? You're saying, I'm going to unleash this. No. So you've really gone to the country thing and just stayed in that.
Yes, sir.
Well, hey, listen. I hope that you and Mike get together. I hope it comes out. I hope you do this, and I certainly hope wish continued success in the solo career. And I do agree with you that when fans come to go to a show, shut the up. Just go listen to the effing music. I mean, God.
Well, isn't that what you paid for the ticket for?
Yes.
I mean, if you wanted to have a conversation, why don't you stay home and talk over your kitchen table?
Well, I'll add this. It seems to be pervasive because, when you go to the movie now to see the new next Marvel movie, they're talking behind you about, did you see this? Did you see that? And it's like, listen, folks, we're not in our living room. You are at a live venue. You are in a cinema. You are in. Enjoy the moment. Stop with the bitching about the what happened in the office today. Anyway, I'm with you. So that's my rant.
Thank you.
That's my rant for the day. Now we can see Blabbermouth put my rant up there. But Aaron, this has been an absolute pleasure. I have followed the career. I've enjoyed the career. I think it was, and maybe it's not the right word, but I think it was exceptionally courageous to step out of the mold and go do your own thing. And such a diverse, from country to rock. I mean, to really just sort of step out and go, yeah, no, I'm not going to do rock light, as you said. Kudos, just absolutely courageous.
Well, that really would have been the easy way out.
Of course, yes.
That would have been what everybody expected me to do, and I don't know that it would have gone the same. I just put out my 9th #1 debut record. And I don't know whether it would have gone that way if I hadn't done something different.
Oh, I fully agree. Had you done sort of rock light, I think every critic would have said, well, that's really nice, but when are you going to do this with Mike again? It would always have been a comparison, or you're missing the parts. And it would have been like, no, I'm not missing the parts. I'm doing a solo album. Yeah, but do your solo album with Mike. And it's like, come on, stop it. But by doing country, it's like, yeah, this is me, and it's only me. And you can't say it's anything else.
There was a separation made, yes.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, sir. I hope you enjoyed the interview, and it will go up as is. And I will send it to your publicist so she can forward it to you. And as we say in Montreal, merci beaucoup. Thank you very, very much. You have been absolutely terrific. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Cheers.
This is Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. Mitch Lafon.